current implementation of the revitalized peace agreement, particularly the 24-month extension of the roadmap. So what do you want to share with the public, with the people of South Sudan, and those who are watching us also, as to where we from peace implementation?
Thank you very much, Akile, and welcome iRadio. This is a good opportunity for me to shed more light on the implementation of the agreement. Our people, of course, are not properly sensitized. We have in the roadmap we have a program for sensitization of the public and on the roadmap especially, but unfortunately, due to some other obstacles, we have not done it so far up to now. But there is still enough time. We will sensitize the people of South Sudan on the roadmap and on the elections. So we are moving forward. At present, we are left with about 17 months, if not. We are left now with about 17. We are in August. We are left with 16 months. We are left with 16 months. That there is still enough time. There are people who just bring it nearer here and say, well, we have delayed in everything. In fact, we have not delayed. We are in the process and we are moving forward. We are only waiting for the budget now to be passed by the parliament. And with the budget passed by the parliament, we will be in a position to allocate the resources that are required for phasing out phase one of the unified forces, and the entry of phase two of the unified forces to the training centers. The time that will be taken by phase two will not be that long, because we have already prepared all the necessary funds that need to be used for phase two. Phase two will be going in, and it will not be staying as it will not be staying for long like phase one. Because phase one, we had some problems, and those problems were not soon resolved. And some of the problems actually was to do with the arms embargo. Because phase one went to the training center without arms. We graduated them with the sticks, as you know, and at present we will deploy them with the sticks. We have been calling on the international community at least to give us the opportunity to request some of our good Samaritans to give arms only to these forces. But that had not been possible, so we will deploy them with sticks. We'll deploy them with sticks because we don't want to arm those who were in the SPLA, SSPDF. This group had their arms, and their arms are there in the barracks. But those who came from the other opposition forces came without arms. These are the people now we are unable to do anything on them. So we will disarm them. Instead of us arming one part of them and not arming the other, we will only graduate them with sticks, all of them.
And there's this complaint that there are so many rifles in the hands of the civil population, Honorable Minister. And when I asked you this question last time, you said it is a process. It's not easy to disarm the civil population. But what new approach do you think can the government really take to ensure that these soldiers are deployed, whether they are armed or not?
Yes, we are now only waiting for the approval of the budget, 2023-2024. With the approved budget, there will be funds for the deployment of these forces. There will be funds for receiving the phase two of these forces into the training center. That is all that we are waiting for. And as to what we should do, there is no way we can get arms for them. As long as the arms embargo is still there, there's no way we can get arms for them. So we will deploy them with the sticks, even though they will not be that competent to perform their functions and duties as the armed or as the security forces in the Republic of South Sudan. But there is no way. What can we do? The phase 2 will go in, and phase 2 will graduate them with their arms, because in phase 2 it is a condition that you must produce your rifle in order to qualify for the training center. So those who are going in phase 2 will go in with their arms. Their arms will be kept in the stores, and as soon as they finish, they will be graduated with their arms.
And does that mean, Honorable Minister, the more than 50,000 who graduated, they came to the training center without arms, all of them?
Yes, yes, without arms. So this is the situation now. For the other armed groups that are there now, we have only the IO and the SAW. These are the only two armed groups. These two armed groups are the ones that we know that they have forces, and they are now organizing themselves to enter the training centers. It is these same two armed groups that have not yet, and this is one of the factors that which is delaying, they have not yet given or nominated people to fill the positions that have been given to them, the ranks. These ranks have been, they agreed at the leadership, SSPDF leadership or Unified Forces leadership, and they have allocated particular ranks to the opposition forces, the former opposition forces, so that they fill them, and once they fill them, then these forces will be graduated, commanded by these officers. These ones have not yet been filled up to now, and we are still waiting for it.
And also on the issue of Chapter 1, let's go back there, Honorable Minister, and especially we talk about the issue of elections. And this has been the topic all these days. People have been talking about it. President Kiir repeatedly said that the country, South Sudan, will go for elections in December next year, as stipulated in the extended 24-month of the roadmap. So can you tell also the public what preparations are put in place so far for the country to be ready for elections next year?
Well, I don't know what type of preparations are you talking about, but the most important part is the sensitization of the public, because these will be the first elections to be run after independence. The last election we ran was before independence, and from then up to now, the government had not been able to run elections because of the so many interruptions that have been happening. So the current one, the current election where we will be going in for, will be the first elections after independence. For us to go for elections, there are certain criteria or very important positions or criteria that must be met. It is not everything that has something to do with the elections. One, we need the political parties council to be established. It is in the process. We need the National Election Commission to be established. It is in the process. We need the security arrangements to be completed. It is in the process. We need the
Constitution?
The constitutional making process to start, and it is in the process. Once you have this in place, there is no reason why you should not go for elections.
And there's a complaint from many people, especially civil society activists, especially on the constitution-making process, that is it applicable at this particular time for a country to rush for a constitution just because of election, or the permanent constitution can still be done by legitimate parliament, which the MPs will be elected by people. This is their appointees right now. How can they make a permanent constitution? Don't you think they might make the constitution in their interest? This has been the argument outside there.
Well, of course, that is the situation remains to be determined. The agreement talks of a constitutional making process that ought to finish before the end of the interim period. What about if it doesn't finish before the end of the interim period? If it doesn't finish before the end of interim period, there are other alternative issues, alternative arrangements. One of them is that we can go for elections using the current constitution.
The transitional constitution.
The current transitional constitution, we can use it for going for elections, and there we will elect the constituent assembly. It is only a matter of amending the current constitution so that it gives you the continuity to run elections, and that parliament that will be elected will be a constituent assembly or a constituent parliament. This constituent parliament will be the body to pass the constitution, the permanent constitution, and this is why it is called the constituent assembly. This is a possibility. In case we fail to come up with the constitution in time, we can use the current one and we go for elections.
So you earlier said...
So the most important are these. Once these are in place, these four, once they are in place, there is nothing that can stop us from going for elections, and I'm confident that all these will be met before time.
And Honorable Minister, there was a press conference yesterday held by Nicholas Haysom and his chief here in South Sudan, and talked about, he actually said, currently or practically the country is not ready for elections when it comes to infrastructure and other prerequisites to elections as well. I mean, look at it from this perspective of how will you transport how will you have polling centers in all parts of the country, since some parts of the country are still experiencing insecurity. Do you think this is possible? We have 16 months now remaining.
Well, that is possible, because after all, what are those countries? Our main problem now in South Sudan is not insecurity, but is mobility and availability of the necessary necessary roads, in other words. In Upper Nile, for example. In Upper Nile, even as of now, in Greater Upper Nile, even as of now, the only means of communication is either by river or by air. There are no roads. So that remains to be, it continues to be there. And this is a reality. It is only in a Greater Equatoria that you can have access 24 hours, access 24/12 throughout the year. There's no problem. But if you go also to Barghazal, you will find that there are some areas which are not accessible and that need to be covered also by air. This is the situation. For Upper Nile, there is no doubt about that. Greater Upper Nile, including the Jonglei here. Jonglei here, it is the only area which is accessible by land is Bor County.
So how will people in those areas that are cut or because of inaccessibility, how will they vote with...
well, voting the votes, everything will be taken to them. And this is why it is said elections is expensive and we have to bear it. We'll have to sensitize them, take everything to them. We will have to engage them, sensitize them, and take the ballot papers to them, take the boxes there to them so that they go and vote.
And are there partners, apart from the government, are there other stakeholders who are willing to support the government of South Sudan gearing actually towards elections?
Yes, all the partners to the agreement, all the partners are ready to support us. And the only condition they are putting on is that we must see you You must be seen to be doing something so that we support you. Because we will not be ready to support you if you don't do anything. And this is what we are doing now. We are doing something, and they have committed themselves to support the government of South Sudan.
And since we're still talking about elections, it's a very important topic, Honorable Minister. About 2 or 3 weeks ago, we had an interview also with the first Deputy Speaker of the Parliament, Oyet Matani. He was saying that this current budget is not allocated funds or money for elections. And I understand now in the current budget we have almost 50 billion pound for peace implementation. So what would you say about that, just to clarify?
Well, yes, that is what he said. And I'm failing to understand what does he mean. Does he mean to say that implementation of the agreement does not include elections? Because the implementation of the agreement, it starts with the implementation and at the end, ends in elections. This budget, this money which was allocated, is meant for the implementation of the agreement. And the implementation of the agreement includes establishment of the Election Commission. The Election Commission is supposed to be part or to be included. It is included in this amount for the implementation of the peace agreement. This is in addition to their budget. They will start the establishment of the commission using these funds. After establishment of the commission at all levels, then next year will be the year of elections. And the budget for elections will specifically come out in 2024, 2025 budget. That is next June.
But will you have enough time to prepare for election at that time, because election is in December?
The preparations will be done now by the Election Commission. And what will happen in the next budget will be the operationalization or implementation of the elections. This is where it will need real money, because we will have to spend more on that. But as of now, we need only the establishment of the commission and sensitization of the people about the elections, because there are so many. Since then up to now, there are so many generations that they don't know what is elections. So they need to be sensitized, and this will be the work, mostly will be done in the media.
And this is part of it actually.
And this is part of it now. We need to sensitize the people so that they know what are they supposed to do when the time for election comes.
Other parties to the agreement, talking about sensitization, have been complaining that they don't have freedom of expression, civic space, and also freedom of association and freedom of conducting rallies and events, just like what the main party, the SPLM, has been doing. So what role can the government play here to...
That is rather surprising, because none of the parties had ever been stopped from performing any of its political activities in South Sudan. Probably people are saying so because they are seeing the SPLM all the time appearing there. They appear there because of their activity. If you are dormant, you are not doing anything. Is it our duty to go and wake you up? Hey, get up, go and make a public rally? It is your duty to plan your own public rally, your own activities, and invite the media to attend it for you. And they cover it. After covering it, it is played all over.
So they are allowed to do that?
They are allowed to do that, but they want us to tell them, you, why are you sleeping? Go and do this there. This is not our work. Our task is to only facilitate and create the necessary conducive atmosphere for all the parties, so that they can play from a level ground. And we, in the media, we have leveled the ground. Everybody is free to talk. Everybody is doing whatever he wants to do. We have never stopped anybody. Unless they want us to plan for them, then that is a different thing.
Now, Honorable Minister, still on elections, maybe tell us what does the peace agreement say when it comes to census and maybe voter registration before the election? Because there is this perception outside there that it is a must that the country should first conduct census before it can go for election. So, can you explain this? What does the peace agreement say?
Well, not that only, but there is also the question of repatriation of the displaced and the refugees.
Right. I was coming to that actually.
To start with the repatriation of the displaced and the refugees, these people are not, their repatriation is not obligatory.
Voluntary.
It is voluntary. It is when I decide to return that I'm abroad. It is when I am displaced and I decide to go to my home area that I'm taken there. But it seems that people seem to believe that it is the government that will bring people, whether they accept or not, and transport them, take them wherever they are. That is not the meaning of that. Anybody, and there are so many people who are coming back now from the refuge. There are so many people who are going back to their home areas now from the displaced camps. All these people are moving. And we don't need to announce them. And if anybody wants more details, then he should go to the humanitarian affairs. This is where they have all these records. The returnees and the displaced. All these, their details are there. But people are moving, except that people are not forced to move. If I don't want to come back to South Sudan, if I'm a refugee, I cannot be forced to come back to South Sudan. And this is the situation. Even if I'm a displaced here, and I don't want to go to my home area, I cannot be forced to go to my home area.
But some of them, Honorable Musa, complain that their houses are being looted, are being grabbed, the environment is not conducive. It is the role of the government now to provide all these necessities for them to return. So what is the government doing to convince them, to persuade them to come back?
It is not, those people, these are people with their own political agendas. And wherever you are, if you want to come, if you don't want to come, you must make sure that you create an acceptable argument and a reason for you to stay. These are people who do not want to come. It is just like those who are arguing that, there is no conducive atmosphere, we cannot go for elections. These are people who do not want to go for elections. And they are, as such, they tend to lay hurdles, obstructions, so that the elections are not run. This is what is happening. Otherwise, people are going for elections. People are prepared. We are prepared and will continue to prepare them for elections. Security arrangements will be implemented. All these commissions and so forth, which are connected with the elections, they will be operational. There is nothing that will stop us from not going for elections unless we decide not to go for elections.
To extend another transition.
And this is what we do not want. We don't want any other extension, even by a day. Because the people of South Sudan are fed up of us. It is, and those who do not want elections are the ones who are now talking of no elections because there is nothing has been done.
So when you say the people of South Sudan are fed up of us, you're referring to you, to us, to politicians?
As are fed up as to us as South Sudanese who are politicians and who are creating problems all the time, so that the elections are not run. This time, we have taken it upon ourselves that we must go for elections. Even if the constitution is not out, we will use the current constitution, amend it, and we go for elections using it.
And then have a permanent constitution.
And then a permanent constitution can be worked out by the elected parliament.
So that's a
I quite agree with you that most of the parliamentarians here are not elected. We have 500 and something. Meanwhile, if you add those who were elected, 171, plus those who were in Khartoum, who were in 96. These were the elected members only. But the rest were brought by the agreement. Whom do they represent? Do they represent people in which constituencies? We don't know.
They represent their parties, actually.
They represent their parties, and some of these parties have no presence on the ground. So this is why we are talking of elections, so that the real representative of the people come and draft the constitution of the people of South Sudan.
Right.
Yes.
Now, what about the issue of census, the one I asked you earlier, and maybe just to clear the air to the public about what the peace agreement really says regarding census and also elections?
Well, the peace agreement have been talking about elections and about the population census. The population census had ever been interrupted all this time, because you cannot just conduct a population census at a time when you have not yet created the necessary conducive atmosphere for the census. We have not been able to conduct the census because of the instability which we have been experiencing all this time. And up to now, for you to run the population census, you need at least 2 years. At least 2 years to prepare and run the population census. So it is not an issue, and it cannot be an obstacle for the elections, because we have the former population census, and we have the household counts that can be conducted at any time, and partly this had been partly done by the Center for Center for Statistics. And as such, we can still go on with elections without necessarily conducting this population census. The real population census will be done probably after the elections. When that parliament comes to sit, and the population census is conducted, then this is the time when we will be in a position to determine the actual seats of the parliamentarians in the parliaments. There is no way whereby we can say we at present have 550 seats in the National Assembly, and we have 100 seats in the Council of States, and we have 100 seats in all the 100 seats per state in all the states. This has to be reviewed, because you cannot just have parliamentarians, I think, which are almost 1,600 or 700. You add the administrative areas. You have 1,700 or 800. These are MPs only. So what is actually happening because of the agreement is that most of the revenue of the state is going for salaries. We are not getting anything. We are only paying. So these numbers must be reduced. And for us to reduce them, we go for a transitional, for the elections, and after elections, we will conduct the population census, and we will include the seats, the correct seats for the people of South Sudan in the permanent constitution after the population census.
And how many MPs are we going to have at let's say, the national parliament after the election?
Well, I cannot say it because it is determined according to the outcome of the population census. It is after that, after having attained the number of people in the population census, that now the representation or number of the population per constituency. How many people will we need for a constituency? After agreeing on that, now you will begin to calculate, and you will be in a position to know how many seats are there.
Right. Now, in the event, just like you're saying, Honorable Minister, the country can go for elections and thereafter we can have population census. Then how will you go for elections without determining the number of MPs you're going to have?
We can use the old number. We can use the old, we can use the old, what do you call it, the current constitution, the current constitution provided for the number of seats. And if we want to increase the number of seats, we can increase them, amend the current constitution, and add the number of seats, which we think that is reasonable, and will be representative of all the people of South Sudan, and all these people will come and sit now and write the permanent constitution.
And talking about
and determine the real number of parliamentarians.
And talking about the MPs, you earlier mentioned more than 1,000 and the issue of salary, consuming money and something of that kind. What about the ministers also? Now we're having about 35 ministers brought by the revitalized peace agreement. You have 5 vice presidents. So what is going to happen?
Well, of course, all these are connected with the constitution. When I only brought the example of the parliament as an example. But even in the executive, you have 35, you have 5 vice presidents. 5 vice presidents, which is not anywhere in the world except in South Sudan. You have 35 cabinet members and 10 deputies. And then you have a lot of commissions and institutions and parastatals. All these are there. And then you come, it is only the judiciary which needs more people, which is the only institution which is actually, no, but all the rest will have to be determined in accordance with the provisions of the Constitution. For us, all these are there now simply because of the agreement. So it is our duty to go for elections so that this agreement is put aside and we go for the realities. And it is only when we go for elections that we will have put the agreement aside and we proceed with our system. And this is where we'll be in a position to come up so that whenever there is anything, then somebody must be there to answer.
Now there is no one there to answer?
It is the parties to the agreement. And who are the parties to the agreement? It is those who are signatories to the agreement, and if any of them says no, it becomes a problem. One can say no and the other would say yes, and then people are at stalemate. This is what is happening now. So this idea of having a government of national unity or a transitional government of national unity is not healthy. It is a government of convenience. But we want a real government that will be answerable to the people of South Sudan, elected by the people of South Sudan and answerable to the people of South Sudan.
Right. And talking about that, that means if the country does population census after the elections, that means it will go for voter registration, right? Just to,
well, voter registration is the first process in the elections. Voter registration is supposed to start 6 months before voting. And voter registration is a process whereby you need to sensitize the people, talk to them, so that they go to the registration centers. This is what is called a voter registration. When you go to the voter registration, you need to identify yourself, so that it is known that it is you. It is me, Michael Makuei, who is coming to register. And I must produce my ID card, or in the case of South Sudan, where we have no ID cards, all of us, then someone must be there. Your chief must be there to identify and say, yes, this is Michael Makuei, and he's registered. After that, this is what we call the voter register. After the registration of the voters, there will be time whereby all these will be displayed, so that you check. You check the list, whether your name is there or not. This is one. You check the list also, so that you see in the list, are there people who are not qualified to be in this center and who are not supposed to vote here or not. You can object to their registration. Those whose names are left out will have the right to complain so that their names are included. And this is where judiciary also comes in. There will be special courts for the elections, because with the beginning of the voter register begins the electoral cases. There will be special courts for elections who will be looking into the cases first of all. Once a case is there, it is looked into immediately, rapidly, so that the cases are addressed. Now, after that, the final list of registered voters will now be out within a specified period. If after that specified period you discover that your name has fallen out, it is too late. Then that list will be now adopted as the final list of the voters in that particular constituency. After that, you will be there as now you are a registered voter. Then comes in the time for the candidates. The candidates will apply. They have their process. It will be a rigorous process. They will apply through their political parties. Of course, the political parties will have to nominate their candidates, and they will be registered. And after registration, and their names that are out, they will now go for campaigns, political campaigns. Now, before that, with the establishment of the political parties council, this is what I forgot. This is where the process starts. The political parties council will be there to register all the political parties that want to go for election. And this registration will be in accordance with the Political Parties Council Act, whereby for you to register as a political party, you must have a certain number of followers.
In the states?
In all the states, in the states. In at least 7 states, you must have, I think, 500 registered members per state.
Which other parties have been complaining that
this is already passed. It was, you know very well, people were at loggerhead last time, and it is already passed. So those who cannot afford to register 500 in each state, then what are they waiting for? They should join others. If they are unable to register 500, then what are they doing? Then they are not even competent to be called political parties. So these people, these parties will be registered, and after registration they will be given the registration certificates, and
so they can conduct their campaigns.
So that they can now conduct their campaigns officially. Even though as of now we have relaxed that, and we have allowed everybody to start so that they can register their 500 per state, because we are racing with time. We will not wait until they are registered, but they are allowed to start with the registration of their followers in the states, so that when time comes and they are called to come for registration at the political parties council, then they would have already prepared this and go to the political parties council and register.
Yes, and Honorable Minister, you earlier talked about it is in process, as you said, the reconstitution of the political parties council and the election commission as well. I spoke to Dr. Professor Benigo, the chairperson of the election commission, complaining about the issue. Even the rent, the office is just nearby here. It's an issue, and they don't have presence in the state. So, when is this process really going to be expedited so that it will prepare the ground for the elections to be successful, free and fair?
Well, by the way, preparation. If they have started to talk about the absence of an office,
lack of funds. Lack of funds.
Lack of funds. Yes, funds are coming, and this is why I said the budget is coming. They will be properly restructured, and they will be funded, and they will establish their office at the headquarters, establish offices in the states, and probably prepare a staff for the counties. Not that only, but they will be giving training to their staff. Using this peace fund, they will be training their personnel. They will be training this personnel for the elections. By the time when the new budget comes, the other budget, these people would have already been prepared, and then they will go down to the registration straight. And this is the time when they will be spending more money on that. So the chair of the commission, of the election commission, should not complain about lack of funds, because the funds are coming. He should not, if he is complaining about the lack of accommodation, office accommodation, then where have he been all this time? Because the election commission had never been there. It must be having a residence somewhere, an office somewhere.
It's nearby here.
Okay, if it had been there all this time, then why complain? So,
Honorable Minister, one of the recommendations of National Dialogue stipulates that the two principals should step down, they should not run for elections. What is your comment on that, since we are preparing for elections next year?
The National Dialogue was unrealistic, because there is no way you can say, let them step down, and then whom did they represent? This National Dialogue. This National Dialogue were just mere appointees. It is the people of South Sudan who will tell me, Michael, we don't want you, not they. So there's no way whereby they can sit there, say we are a National Dialogue, we have decided that X should not come, Y should not come. That is not their right. It is the right of the people of South Sudan. Whether it is the people of South Sudan who will say, Salva Kiir, thank you very much, they will not vote for him. It is the people of South Sudan who will say, Michael Makuei, thank you very much, we don't want you. They will not vote for you. So it is not the National Dialogue that decides like this. It is unfortunate that they have decided on something which is not within their competence. Yes.
And also, Honorable Minister, there is this issue. This statement was made by the spokesperson of the SPLM-IO. I understand you don't speak on behalf of the SPLM or the Unity Government spokesperson, but I want to relate it to the peace agreement. Pogbo, who said that Dr. Riek Machar is still a member of the SPLM, and is the government willing to welcome him back from the IO party, for instance, based on that statement? I'm relating it to the revitalized peace agreement.
Well, I don't know where he has not, so far we have not heard that. And if he decides to come, we welcome him back. And we apply the provisions of our constitution. If he has decided to come back, he should apply as an individual. There is no question of a group coming or a party coming, joining us. If he has decided to come, he is free. We welcome him. He is the son of South Sudan. He was a former member. He is a former member of the SPLA and a former member of the High Command. We welcome him back, but what we will do is that we will apply the provisions of our Constitution, which says, if you are coming as a member, if you are coming to the party, to the SPLM, as a member from a different party, from a different party, or if you had defected to a different party and you have decided to come back, you will have to be there under observation for a complete year, 12 months.
Observation?
Yes. Because you may decide to astray again. And if you are coming from a no party, then you are given 6 months within which you can exercise all your rights. But if you are coming from a different party, you will not exercise your rights except after complete full year. So they are most welcome. We have no problem.
And Honorable Minister, this is concern also coming up, that why is the first Vice President not being seen traveling other parts of the country, and yet we see the President traveling and meeting people with the locals in some parts of the country. Why is Dr. Riek Machar confined only in Juba? What is really happening? Why can they moving together? That's what
who confined him? Even me, I have not been traveling that much like my other rest of my colleagues. Is there anybody who has confined me? If he has decided to stay and not to travel anywhere, does it mean that he is confined? No, he is not confined. But he has not decided to travel. And should we go and ask him, why are you not traveling? If you are concerned, go and ask him. That is open. You have every right to go and interview him and even ask him, why are you not traveling? And the rest of your colleagues are traveling. Yes.
And also the Chapter 5, I want to bring you a little bit back before we can wind up to Chapter 5 to the Revitalized Peace Agreement. As we are talking about the constitution making process, there are some people who are saying justice first and then peace and reconciliation later. And other people are also saying let's go first for peace and reconciliation, then justice later. I'm talking about the hybrid court, the issue of accountability and bringing perpetrators of the 2013 and 2016 violence to book.
This is where I have been very clear from day one. Peace first, not accountability first. Once you bring peace and you have settled everything, then you now begin to say, Michael, come here. These are your charges against you. But meanwhile, there is no peace, and you begin with accountability, then you are telling people to be and to join the bushes, go to the bushes of South Sudan. I have been saying this, and I said it to the former Secretary General Ban Ki-moon when he came to South Sudan here, and he said, you people of South Sudan, you better hurry up with the formation of the hybrid court, because we have already allocated a sum of $5 million for the hybrid court. I said, Mr. Secretary General, are you for peace or accountability? He said, why are you asking that question? I said, you are putting the cart before the horse. Because first thing you must do is to ensure that, make sure that there is peace, and that peace prevails in your country. And that you don't give up, you don't create rooms for others to defect. It is after having attained the necessary peace that you begin to make people accountable for their deeds. But you cannot make them accountable before you attain peace. So peace comes first, not the hybrid court.
So if the country goes for election, the peace agreement ends. That is
it is not ending, because there are some, even the security arrangements The reorganization of the unified forces is a process that will take place after elections. So there are some provisions of the agreement that will continue. As it is now in the CPA, we have some provisions of the CPA which are up to now continuing. They are not yet implemented.
So they will be implemented by the elected government?
By the elected government.
The issue of economy, Honorable Minister, and the dollar is actually, the local currency pound has been losing value against the dollar, and families have been complaining about the high prices in the market, lack of enough salary payment to civil servants. Now, as the government spokesperson, what would you tell the people of South Sudan?
Well, first thing to say is that this issue of inflation is an overall problem. It is a world problem. The problem, the only difference is that it varies from a country to another, according to its income and according to its sources. But it is an overall problem. It is not only in South Sudan. There's one. Number two, for us here in South Sudan, we are more affected because we are a consuming society, a consuming country. We don't produce our own food. We import everything, including salt, not salt only, but including oil, including flour, including what, everything which we can produce here in South Sudan, we are importing it. Even sometimes back we were bringing fish from Lake Victoria and chickens and even cows for a slot to the slaughters here. Meanwhile, we have plenty of them here. So we have a problem. It is this lack of productivity, lack of production, which is affecting us more than anything. If the inflation was there and we were producing at least our own food, this inflation would have not affected us very much. But because we are importing everything, this is why it is pinching us seriously.
And why can the government put infrastructure in place for production, for instance, having a mechanized farming?
The
SPLM vision.
Well, this is what is supposed to happen. Yes. This is what is supposed to happen, but with insecurity, with instability, with the implementation of the CPA, without the implementation of the CPA by the parties signatory to the agreement, without the parties signatory to the agreement coming together, understanding themselves and working together, there will be no productivity. And this is why I'm saying we must go for elections.
There's also this concern, Honorable Minister, that we do understand the President is the first citizen of the country and is a symbol of the country, the flag bearer of South Sudan around the world. And why can South Sudan government purchase a plane to President of the country instead of traveling to other countries using chartered planes from other countries as well? Why can the government itself purchase a plane for the President of the country?
No comments on that.
Honorable Minister, on the 12th of August is going to be International Youth Day, and we would like you also to have your message to young people outside there. And I remember last time you talked about youth being lazy, waiting for white-collar job and playing dominoes and sipping tea under the tree. But this time around, what message again you can reiterate the same to them as we prepare to commemorate International Youth Day?
Well, for the current incoming International Youth Day, I say congratulations to our youth. This is your day, and we expect you to abandon all these things which were keeping you away from production. In fact, South Sudan is a country endowed with so many resources. But it is us who are not making use of these resources, because we are made to believe that the only place for employment is in the government. My message to the youth is that you think and create an employment for yourself and be productive in your own limited facility, and you will be more comfortable. than being a government employee. Because if you are a government employee, the little that you get will not help you. But if you are a self-employed, you will produce more than what you get when you are a government employee. So work hard and try to stand on your own and try to come together, form cooperatives, and they will help you. Even if we form a cooperative and we get only hoes and start farming using hoes in a cooperative manner, we'll produce enough for ourselves and for others. But when we sit under the trees and continue sipping tea throughout, I don't know from where do we get this money, they keep on sipping tea throughout under the trees. From where do they get money for this? And they complain of lack of employment. In fact, they are self-employed and they have resources. Otherwise, if you don't have anything, you cannot just be sitting there under a tree with the marabata shahida, and every 1 hour or 2 hours you say, give shai. Throughout the day. And at the end of the day, you may find yourself having taken 4 or 5 cups of tea. How much is it? So instead of sitting under that tree, using that money, yes, it is a revenue, a production to the woman who makes the tea. But for you, what is it? Yes, go and take 2-3 cups and leave the rest for other things. My message to the youth is that they must be productive. Yes.
Thank you. What last message do you have as we wind up, especially regarding the peace implementation and also the issue of elections, as the government spokesperson, Honorable Minister?
Well, my message to the people of South Sudan is that, yes, we are in the process and the implementation of the agreement is taking place as scheduled. Elections will be run, or it's a political parties council will be established. Phase 2 of the security arrangements will go in and graduate it, and the political parties council will be established. The election commission will be established. All the necessary arrangements will be done for the conduct of elections in 2024. In December 2024, we will conduct elections. So be prepared for elections. We will keep you informed as we move. We will keep you sensitized as we move. But let us get prepared for the elections and elect the people we want. Elect the president we want. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much, Honorable Minister Michael Makuei, for your time. It's our pleasure.
Okay, thank you very much.
Thank you.
Yeah.